Good evening, everyone. It is 6:04 on Wednesday, February 16th. This is the Finance and Operations Committee meeting. If I can ask Ms. Lamphier to take attendance.
Yes. Okay, so I'm here. Ms. Johnson?
Present.
Ms. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Claffey?
Here.
Thank you.
And we also have Mr. Donovan with us tonight. And on our first order of business, we have the ESS contract.
Yes, so couple of last month, I believe it was, ESS was here and they explained their process to you and the plan. We've been working with them and speaking with them for about 4 or 5 months at this point. So the agreement, we finally finalized the agreement. I got it this morning. We negotiated back and forth with about four or five items that took a little bit longer to get everything done, but in the long run, I think we hit a good spot. So basically, in summary, this is the agreement with ESS. So it's an exclusive agreement so that they will find and furnish to us the substitutes, and on the back of the agreement, you'll see the types of substitutes that they will be getting for us. So it's a 2-year deal, basically. It's going to, hopefully, if they can get up and running, we'll start in April of this year, but then it'll be for the next 2 school years. And hopefully it works out well and we'll renew it, and if it doesn't work out well, we want to move on, we can do that. There is also some termination language in there if for some reason we want to do that sooner. But basically, in summary, they will be hiring, the subs will go onto the ESS payroll, they will recruit the subs, they will pay the subs. They will be using the same software that we use for substitutes. It's called Frontline. It used to be called ASOP. And that's the software they use, so they'll be working with us using the same software. So that'll be an advantage to our schools. They can use the same software they've been using as far as getting notifications and things. I think that's pretty much what the summary is. The contract, I don't know if there's any other questions in here. It's not too lengthy a contract, it's not too complicated a contract. And all in all, like I said, they pretty much, anything that I was uncomfortable with, they pretty much took it out of the contract. And the pricing, just so you know, it's a 33% markup, okay? So it's what we're paying plus 33%. Typically, the range is 30 to 35 for these types of things. If the volume goes up, then maybe the price can change at some point. But I think, in my opinion, since they cleaned up the rest of the other language that was in there, I figured we might as well give them a reasonable profit so that they'll work hard and get this done. Because as you've probably heard, you know, finding substitutes has been a challenge for a while, especially the last 2 or 3 years. And the goal is to get more subs in our schools when people are out, and to fill and to cover open positions and things like that. So it's something different. I sort of had to convince myself that it might work, but I've kind of done that at this point. So my suggestion is that we approve the contract and give it a go for the next couple of years.
I was looking at this insurance coverage. What I like about it is they're covering the workman's comp, so we don't have to cover that. Commercial general liability coverage, they've got with a $2 million combined single limit per occurrence. plus $1 million umbrella policy.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's pretty good coverage. That takes off of our hands, especially workman's comp. So if anything was to happen, they pay workman's comp. And then we don't have to say, oh, we have another personnel, somebody out because they got injured. And they're going to take care of health insurance, 401K, and all that for the employees, I guess I remember the last time. Do we need to know?
Yes, all benefits, whether it's like the FICA match that every company has to pay, they'll cover that cost. That's 7.65% of every dollar paid. And as far as what the benefits are, I'm sure you have to work for a little bit to get to get certain benefits. They didn't get super specific on when you get what, but they do have available to their staff's benefits that they would not get if working for the district.
Right, so I guess that's kind of like something to lure people more towards maybe working for them, and then they bring them to us, because if we don't offer it and they can work for them and get some type of benefits, that to me is an important thing. Anybody from the committee have any questions? Ms. Brown?
Well, mine was more of, I guess, a comment. I do think it's worth a shot. You know, at face value, sticker shock, 30% is a little bit scary initially, but I think what really won me over is the fact that they're going to be giving us a full-time recruitment person.
Yes.
The idea of hiring a full-time sub-recruiter for that rate would be impossible, and it's something that we don't have the bandwidth in the district to do right now. So I think there is some real value in there. And like you said, you know, if we find it's not working, we can move on, but I think this is a creative solution. So thank you for putting this together.
Ms. Lamphier?
Oh, yes, I had a question. I'm not sure if it's in the contract somewhere, but if the school is unhappy with a substitute, is it the school that lets the substitute go, or is it the ESS?
We'll contact ESS and say we'd rather not have Regan come back in.
Okay. And of course, you have final say, right? Or the school does?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great, thanks.
Yes, and we also put in there, if for some reason one of our existing subs in the next few months wants to go full-time for us, that there wouldn't be a charge there. And later on, for any subs that they have recruited and hired, once they've worked 60 days for us, then we could hire them full-time if we so choose. Because typically with substitute companies, there's a significant fee to hire one of them onto your staff. Typically it's, you know, they negotiate it, but it's between 15 and 30% or so of the base salary. So that does not exist in this case. So that's, if they get someone good who likes it here and then decides, I think I want to go full-time, once they've put in at least 60 days, then that could be an option.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah. Mr. Claffey, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I had a couple. So the 33% markup, I was just wondering what specific type of sub was that referring to?
Can you just say that one more time, Neil?
Sure. The 33% markup, I wasn't sure what specific type of sub that was referring to.
Oh, that's for any sub, so that's the markup on, so if we paid, if you look on the back of the contract, so for example, we're going to be moving, when they take over the daily sub for a teacher, right now it's 77 a day, we're going to move it to 90. So the markup is that the bill rate will be $119.70, so that's the 33%. So for each day, we'll pay them $119.70.
So I had the same numbers pretty much. I rounded to 120, but
Yeah.
it seems that we're going to be paying about 56% more for daily subs if we go from 77 to 120.
True, but the 77 to 90, we're making that decision to get more subs. We've done a lot of research. We're about the lowest paid around here. I did speak with people at central office, and I did speak with the SS on this, and I said, is 77 going to be difficult to get subs? And everyone sort of agreed it has been, so we want to move it up. Last year, if you recall, back in the spring, we moved it up to about 115 for a couple of months. But I think that's not sustainable. So I think using this, but we did decide, all the other rates listed there, Neil, are rates that we're currently paying now. That's the only one we decided to bump up.
That's what I thought. So if we're paying 120, this is my last question, but if we're paying about 120, we will be if this contract is approved. Why is 115 unsustainable?
Well, then it'd be 115 times the 33% on top of that. So I think
I meant if we don't use this consulting this firm. If we just offered 115 like we did before.
Well, I mean, I guess that's a question. I think the 115, I think the answer to that, going from 77 to 115 is a significant increase. But what we've run into is the inability to get enough people, because the way we budget this line, it's number of subs times rate equals total budget amount. We've been having such low number of subs that the rate doesn't really matter. But I think we'll, by working with the SS, I think we'll learn more. You know, if we need to bump it up to get more people, then that'll be great. I mean, it'll be one of the few lines that if we overrun in the budget, that's probably not a bad thing, because that means we'll have more people in the schools. But the budget that you guys will be seeing in the next couple of weeks is, we can afford the $90.
Okay, so I just want to be, but we're going from 77 to almost $120 per sub per day. Is that accurate?
Yes, but the 77 doesn't include FICA and unemployment and things like that. So if you went through, the 77 is really probably closer to 90 or so when you put in all costs. Because the 77 is just the amount we pay the sub, but we incur costs for FICA, we incur costs for unemployment. Those are other costs that you would have to factor in to compare it to this number.
Mr. Claffey, do you have any more questions?
No, thank you.
Oh, okay. I think he brought up a good point, and many people don't realize the added cost, like I said, the workman's comp, because you have to pay into workman's comp, you have to pay the FICA, you have to pay, what else did you say?
Well, those are the main two for a
Main two
sub.
things that you have to pay
But
into.
there's processing costs if you're going to break it all down, there's the processing costs to process the payroll, you know, things like that. So the cost, if you would, we don't do that here, but if we were to break it up, what's the total cost of paying an employee? You'd come up with the base pay plus a percentage.
So payroll, is that done at the city end, or do we do the payroll?
We do all the tracking of the time, et cetera. The actual paychecks are cut at the city.
Okay, so they have somebody in the city that does it, but it's still, no matter whether it's here or street department, you still have to break out the costs for them to cut the check.
Yes.
Okay. On the building-based substitute teacher, that's $115, and our bill rate is $152.95.
Yes, now that one will not go live until next year. Those costs right now are being charged to the ESSER grant. We have, most buildings have a full-time building-based sub. The high schools, I believe, have 2, assuming the positions are all filled. Those people right now, because of the federal medical laws, the Obamacare, that if you work full-time, then we offer those people medical. So that group right now, some of those people may have our medical. So I said, we'll put them on the list. You can take over managing them, but not until next year, so that if some of those people now are here and have our medical, they can keep the medical through the rest of the year.
Okay, so then that, although it's costing us a little bit more money to have them this year, but when they go over to them, then we don't have to worry about their health care coverage, so we don't,
Correct.
we save money on that. And workman's comp and the FICA, so when you add it up, it probably equals out, or we save a little bit on this.
Yes, and keep in mind, they're a relatively new phenomenon. We started them last year. We never had those before. Because we had the ESSER funds, we decided to see if it would help. The good thing is each principal can rely upon having at least one person in their building, that if somebody's out. But if you've got 6 people out, you still only have 1 in. So this may change. We may not continue this going forward. We'll start the year off next year and see how it goes. But prior to the ESSER funds, we never had full-time building-based subs. This is something new.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Lamphier?
Can you explain a little bit more about what building-based subs are? And also, I was wondering if, is there any chance that any of the building-based subs will leave rather than go to ESS?
The second question, I don't really have an answer there. The first question, what a building-based sub, that's a sub that goes to the school every single day, whether they need a sub or not. And they go to the same school. So for example, Maine Dunstable School will have one building-based sub, and that person goes to Maine Dunstable every single day and fills in for somebody. So that school knows they will always have at least one person.
I feel like with the way things have been the past couple of years, you've probably had to use those subs every day.
Oh, definitely.
Do you have a plan for if they don't need a sub? Would they just be like an aide, or?
Yeah, I'm sure most schools, I think it's rare that there's not at least one, maybe the first few days of school, everybody's there, but there's almost always somebody out. But yes, if there wasn't anyone out, then the principal would assign that person to do something else during the day.
Any other questions? Ms. Brown?
I was just going to fill in Ms. Lamphier. Sometimes they'll do, at the elementary school at least, where there are a lot fewer absences in general, sometimes they'll do lunch duty or they'll fill in even for the office, or if someone has an appointment just for a portion of the day, they'll step in for that period and not. So that does happen frequently at the elementary schools.
Mr. Claffey, do you have any questions? We lose him?
I think he was having a hard time.
No, thank you. Once again, I had trouble finding that little icon thing.
Okay, so would anybody like to make a motion to accept this contract and send it to the full board for Monday's meeting?
I move to accept the contract with ESS Northeast LLC and move it along to the full board.
I'll second it.
You can second it, Ms. Lamphier.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
I vote yes. And does Mr. Claffey as an alternate?
No. Okay, so motion carries. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is net metering agreement. I missed Mr. Smith tonight.
Yes, Mr. Smith had he belongs to a group, and it's one Wednesday a month. So we're going to have to get by without him.
Okay.
So basically, what's in front of you here is a net metering agreement. Now, if you go back about a year ago, we signed a net metering agreement for a solar farm that was going to be built, I think it was in Milton, New Hampshire, on an old landfill. And the whole idea behind that, if they could sign up enough people that were willing to use this power. Now, the reality is you don't specifically use the power simply goes to the grid, but if they had enough demand, so they reached out to people, including the Nashua School District, because we have a lot of buildings. And so the deal was we would receive a certain amount of money to sign up for that. We didn't have to do anything, we would just receive certain funds. Now, the reality is we haven't received any money on that because they never built the farm yet, and I think it's going through permitting process, et cetera. This one's slightly different in that this is a consortium of hydroelectric providers in the state of New Hampshire, so they already exist. So this group got together and worked with the state to come up with this consortium, and basically they're offering a rebate amount to us of 0.005 cents per kilowatt hour. The agreement is the only people that they can sign up have to be schools and public entities. Based on the existing amount of power we have been using, we'll get about $49,000 to $50,000 a year by signing this agreement, assuming they get enough people to sign up. We cannot count the power used by any school that has a solar array on the buildings. So Dr. Crisp, Fairgrounds Middle School, we will be putting one on Pennachuck, the construction project we're working on now. But they did say to us that we could withdraw up to 15% of our annual consumption. So as Mr. Smith said, even solar projects may be Birch Hill and Maine Dunstable. If we do those, that's only 6.4% of the total consumption. So if we remove those schools from the initial list, we will still not increase by more than 15%, so there wouldn't be a penalty. Worst case scenario, the penalty is 1 year of the 50,000. So basically this is something that we hope comes to fruition, and it'll be basically a 50.
Good evening and welcome to Open House. Please proceed to your students' first block class, which will begin at 6:30 p.m.
It's okay. It was the overhead, Jenny.
So basically, they came to us, said we're trying to sign up from schools. Once again, Nashua is large. We have a lot of facilities, so therefore, we're someone they'd like to sign up. So I spoke with Mr. Smith and Mr. DeFina, who tracks the energy costs for us, and they both recommend that we enter the agreement with Freedom Logistics.
Ask a question?
Sure, Ms. Brown? Ms. Brown?
So I just wanted to clarify, so this since the hydroelectric power is already built, the providers are already built, we're not committing to building anything else on any of our properties, correct?
No, not at all.
Okay. And I think, was it correct that we did, I know we did we locked in a rate, was it between 8 and 9 cents, is that right?
Yes,
Per kilowatt.
to provide our supply of yes.
Overall electric, and so that's where this, that's where the money savings comes off of, is that percentage, is that?
Well, yeah, the savings is based upon what we use in kilowatt hours. We get that 0.005 cents back.
All right, so I think, I'm supportive of it if we can save nearly $50,000, and as long as it's not going to affect any of the builds, and we don't have to commit right now to adding anything. It makes sense.
Yeah, there's nothing we have to do other than sign the agreement.
Okay, when we talked about bringing the solar power and putting it on top of the schools and that kind of thing, so, thank you.
Now, okay, Ms. Lamphier?
I was just wondering if this, is the solar farm that you spoke of that was already approved, that hasn't been built yet, is that still moving forward? Are we still tied to that? And will this supersede that, or will we go ahead with both of them?
No, that wouldn't have anything to do, that wouldn't affect this agreement at all.
Okay.
And like I said, they still haven't had that fully permitted, so by the time they get it fully permitted and put it in place, this is a 3-year deal. My guess is, if we have to make that sort of decision, we'll have the 3 years to do it.
Do you just want to go over the early termination if we decided we wanted to get out of this because we're not happy with it for some reason?
Yes, so if for some reason we wanted to, then we would return to them basically 1 year's worth, basically what, 50,000. So let's say the first year we got 50,000, and then the second year we got 50,000. We decided we wanted to terminate it for some reason in the second year. We'd have to give them back the 50,000. So as long as we do it within the year where they get the money, we just give them the money back. To be honest with you, I probably wouldn't even put this in the budget. This would be a little buffer that if we do in fact get the 50,000, because I don't know exactly when it would come in. Would they wait for a year and then give it to us in the beginning of the following year, or?
And you don't really know exactly how much power we're going to use in a given year, so that's always going to be
Exactly.
tricky. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mr. Claffey, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Are we looking for a motion or?
Ready?
Sure.
Are you ready? Oh. I move that the NSD enter into an agreement with Freedom Energy Logistics per the contract presented this evening, with the exception of some staff time assembling and mailing utility bills to the group net metering administrator. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I was reading the comments from Mr. Smith. I apologize. I move that the NSD enter into an agreement with the Freedom Energy Logistics per the contract presented.
I'll second.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well.
Sorry about that. It was highlighted, so I thought I had to read it. Excuse me for the committee, I'm going to hand over my duties to Mr. Claffey, since he's here on the phone. I really appreciate that. I'm going to go to my daughter's open house in this building right now, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda was I asked to take a look at the ESSA funds. I just wanted to give everybody that's new on the board just to kind of get an idea of what the ESSA funds were about and what, because I know everybody has questions about it. I still have questions about it. So I don't think it's a very long presentation. Did you want to just go talk quickly about it, Mr. Donovan?
Sure. So the ESSER funding is, it's basically 3 different, I call them ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. They all have other longer names, as the federal government's good at naming their bills very long names. But basically, with the onset of the pandemic, there were different funding programs set up by the federal government for schools specifically. So basically, ESSER 1 is about a $5 million program. The funds for that expire in the end of September of this year, September of 2022. Most of that $5 million has already been spent. There's probably, I'm reviewing it now actually, but there's probably about $700,000 left to be spent. It is all budgeted, so there's plans to spend the rest of it. It just hasn't happened yet. Most of those funds could be covered basically by three items, one of which is computers and network to help out our, during the remote time, to help out our students in our district. A lot of PPE and air purifiers and things like that for when students and faculty came back to school. And the third part, there's a small construction project of about $500,000 or so to improve the HVAC system at Ledge Street and at Fairgrounds. That work is not done. The architects have just completed the work in the last couple days, so we'll know a lot more about that. So that's basically ESSER 1. ESSER 2 is about $12 million, $13 million. That is, we've probably allocated at this date about $9 million of that $12 million. And when I use the word allocate, we have put in requests to the grant management system, and those items have been approved, and then you sort of move ahead on spending them. So we've been using for that, the general areas that we've been spending is for what I would define as learning loss. So that would include extra staff, that would include computer software that certain groups within the district have requested. It would include some PD and some new programming, curriculum programming. Another area is sort of mental health for students. So we've put a few programs in place, most of which we're using outside providers to help us, because those types of providers are very difficult to find these days. We've put funds into family engagement, and by family engagement, that's mostly reaching out to sort of ELL students and students that don't have as close connection to the schools, so we've put some funds in there. And then the other area is infrastructure, and by that we can go from PPE to replacing HVAC systems and things like that. And then the third ESSER, which, and by the way, ESSER 2, the funds are available until September of 2023. ESSER 3, we've just started to allocate the funds. So you'll be hearing more about that. When the budget rolls out, we'll talk more about that. But that's $29 million. So what you will see in that is you will see some construction work, because to spend $29 million, it's rather difficult to spend $29 million on small items. So there will be some construction work, which I'll share with you when I have more information. Those funds are available until September of 2024. And we put in our first proposal for about $1 million or so into this, and it's been sitting around for about 2 months. So these funds have sort of overwhelmed the state, because it's federal funds given to the state, and then the state manages them through the grant management program, just like they do with Title I and IDEA funds, and funds that we get on an annual basis. So they're a little overwhelmed up there. They're having a hard time reviewing everything and getting responses to us. So we're hoping that they catch up soon. But like I said, for this number 3, it's a significant amount of money, and I think we need to spend it in a intelligent way. So that's pretty much a summary of the ESSER funds. You know, this is going to be basically 3 years of a significant sum of money that will be From my understanding, the way the law reads, once the money's gone, it becomes liquidated. I mean, so it goes back to the government. Will they actually do that? If you don't spend it, will they give some back? Will they extend time? Who knows? But at this point, we're moving along as if when we reach those September deadlines, those funds will hopefully be spent.
Ms. Lamphier, do you have any questions?
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Ms. Johnson, and thank you, Mr. Donovan, for preparing this. It really clears up a lot of questions that I had. Thank you so much.
And Mr. Claffey, do you have any questions?
I have one question, and
Sure.
you can tell me if this is not the time or place, but I just want to ask Mr. Donovan whether he feels he has the staff that he needs to take advantage of these funds for the next couple of years.
Yes. It'll be close, but I think right now, with the staff we have, we can do this. It's going to, though, take, to spend the funds in the right way, the construction part of it is much more complicated, but working with Mr. Smith.
That concludes Block 1. Please head over to your Block 2 class.
So working with Mr. Smith on the construction, there's a lot more paperwork and things, so it takes a little bit longer, but I think we can do it. And then, the other thing is a lot of the learning loss and things like that needs to come from, the superintendent, assistant superintendent curriculum side of the building. So there will be some changes there as we head into next year. So I guess the answer right now, Neil, is right now, yes. 6 months from now, I'll let you know.
Do you have any?
Thank you.
Are you all set with the answer?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is just an update. We don't need to make a
No.
motion to accept it.
No.
Perfect. Next on the agenda is the FY22 January financial report.
Okay, so we'll look at as we had the last few months, the monthly numbers, the report that shows the month-by-month trend. So as you can see, the wages, which is obviously our biggest expense each month, there were 4 weekly and 2 bi-weekly pays, so that equals $6.1 million. You could sort of compare that to October, which was the same number of pays, 6.5 million. So it's slightly less, not 100% sure why, but all in all, the numbers in general are moving along fine. The overtime number is a little less than it has been the last couple months, and I think that's one of the bigger drivers of overtime is the Biddy basketball, and they had a week or so off during the holidays, so it's a little bit less. Then the wages per diem, that's the sort of the substitute, and as you can see that, the January was less than December. So we're certainly not getting an uptick in subs. And hopefully with the contract we approved, that will improve as time goes on. The longevity line, the 51600 line, you can see it's $455,000. So that's paying all the longevity per the contracts for everybody but the paras. The paras are not due until April per their contract. So that's paying teachers, custodians, principals, secretaries, and the NASIS group. Stipends, 21,000 this month. It's the head teachers, and there was about 5,000 for adult ed. They pay their teachers on every couple of months, And what was the other amount? Yeah, there were 2 CTE teachers that we gave a stipend to because they covered an extra class. So that was a couple $1,000s. Retirement and separation pay, as you can see, it was a very low number. All that was a small payout to someone that had a little vacation left. So I did go through all the people that we knew were going to retire during the school year have all been paid out at this point. So the year-to-date number is $957,000. The budget was only $800,000, so we overran that line, but that's one of the more difficult line items to budget. So we should have enough funds in other salary accounts to cover that cost, at least this year. Okay, fringe benefits.
Can we go back for a moment?
Yep, sure.
On the wage full-time, did I miss something for December being so high?
Yes, December was high because we had 5 weekly pays and 3 bi-weekly pays. Okay, and the way this is recorded is when the pay is made. So I think if you go back and look at your calendar in December, like Thursday, which is when the pays are made, it was probably the 1st. The 1st of December was probably a Wednesday or a Thursday.
Okay.
So you got 3. You'll have 3 twice a year in a month, 3 bi-weeklies.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then benefits, you see a slight bump up in the educational assistance line, and that's because typically that's the end of a semester, so this is mostly teachers taking graduate courses towards their masters. Professional and technical, everything there seems fine, going according to plan. On page 2 on the other side, we always look at the electricity, heating, gas, and water. Our year-to-date numbers this year, I compare it to 20 instead of 21 because we weren't in the buildings a lot of school year 2021. So comparing that, we're pretty close. Our electricity cost is up by about $50,000, but everything else is pretty close to what it was in that time. So I think the utilities will be fine. You'll notice in the copier maintenance, that's an $89,000. What that is we pay them twice a year. We make a payment at the beginning of the year. We make a payment in January, and then we true up with them in June when they do all the final counts of all the copiers. So copiers have been, with the lack of students being in the buildings over the last couple of years, the costs have gone way down because people haven't been in to use the machines. This year, it's kicking back up. We did have a review with them, which maybe I can bring to the next board meeting last week. And things are going pretty well on our black copies. There's a couple schools that I got to slap the wrist on their color copies, but other than that, in general, we'll be fine. Okay, other services, a lot of smaller items there. You do notice advertising was a bump of $8,923. Most of that was for, I believe it's Power School, which is one of the advertising sites we use for advertising for, it's specific to sort of educational advertising. And at the bottom of the page, you see there the transportation. Now, it was interesting. When I was reviewing it this month, I'm like, wait a minute. I thought, because December was so low, that the invoices would fall into the next month, and there was still a very low number. So we actually looked into it, and First Student had, the bus company, the bills just didn't get to us. So you're going to see in the month of February, total bus costs of about $1.9 million. So basically 3 months of invoices are all going to show up in February, and those will be the invoices for November, December, and January. So I guess it was worthwhile that I took a little look at that because frankly, I was a little surprised that they didn't notice they weren't getting paid, but, you know, we'll pay them when the invoices come in, and like I said, they just came in today. They made sure they sent them over. Okay, excuse me. All right, as I mentioned, tuition out of district, we expected to see a much bigger number because we had the change in staff, so we had lower numbers in November and December, and you see the higher number in January. The last we reviewed this account sort of every 5 to 6 weeks for the rest of the year, and we should be pretty much online this year. Typically, we overrun this budget line, but so far, so good this year. Supplies and materials, really nothing much there out of the ordinary. It's trending as you'd expect. And not too much else to say. Most other costs are in line. Our items have been spent. At the very bottom of page 4, you'll see that 50.63% of our budget is spent. We're 50% through the school year, and we're 58% through the fiscal year. So this number is in between those, which is typically what we'll see, because keep in mind, teachers' contracts, most teachers get paid through the summer, so they spread their cost. So it's always going to be sort of lagging. You're always going to have money left at the end of the year because you're going to have to pay those summer costs. Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, I just saw this at the bottom, the mayoral budget adjustments. I wasn't sure what that meant.
Okay, when we put the budget together, the Board of Ed approved a budget that was $119,300 higher. So when the mayor and the Board of Aldermen approved the budget, they reduced it by that amount. So that's a negative, which dropped our budget down by that amount.
Oh, I see, thank you.
Mr. Claffey, do you have any questions?
No. May I make a motion, Madam Chair, to approve the FY22 January financial report?
Do we need to? Yeah. So I'll second it.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Claffey?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Thanks.
Motion carries. Now we're going to go into the FY22 January transfer report.
Yes, a very small one, so this is good. Only 3 transfers. None of them are over $5,000, so you don't officially have to even approve this one. The first one is a entry to purchase iPads for our board. So we took the money from the supply account that we had in the district-wide. We had a little money left over from some of the summer school things, so we took that money and put it in, and the iPads are ordered. I don't think they're in yet, but they're ordered. They'll be coming. The second one is the CTE at South, and they're simply moving money from supplies to contracted services to cover a contract service. And the other one is also from CTE at North, and that's moving from one supply account for a specific program to a different program. You probably, there's been a lot of CTE transfers this year. So we worked with them on the budget this year and said, let's try to do a little better job of budgeting, put your budgeting in the program that you think you're going to spend, and then you won't have to do any of these transfers until later in the year. So if you think you need $10,000 for electrical, put $10,000 in electrical. They put it all up in the shared instructional part of their budget, and then they've been moving it all over the place. So you'll notice this year, if you dig into that detail on the budget, that we're having them budget where they think they're going to spend it.
So where each board member, I'm going to be fair here now, where each board member is going to be getting an iPad, should we be buying some type of insurance from the school in case we drop it? I mean, what's fair is fair, you know? I know we're adults, but we have accidents too. So how are we going to work that?
Well, since there's only 9 of you, I don't think we're going to worry about insurance, but we are buying you cases, so when you drop it, the case will hopefully deal with that. There's still a possibility you could break it, but paying insurance on 9 of them, actually what we're doing is we're buying an extra one, assuming that one of you are going to do that.
Okay, Jimmy, I hear that. I treat my little Minnie like a baby. I take it everywhere. Okay, that's nice. You know, this way we don't have to bring our electronics in. I'm better as a paper copy person. I do everything by paper yet because I can't write over everything on the iPad. You know,
I'm the same way. I'm the same way, definitely. I like paper too.
paper is the only way to go with me. I'm sorry. But Mr. Claffey, do you have any questions, any comments?
I will donate my iPad to the first person that breaks theirs. And Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the FY22 January transfer report.
I'll second it.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Claffey?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Thanks. That's approved.
Okay. Anything else tonight on our schedule here? No.
That's all I have.
It was a quick meeting. It's almost 7 o'clock. And so, anybody would like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Madam Chair?
Thank you. I'll second it.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes?
Mr. Claffey?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well.
Perfect. And we are adjourned at 6:55 this evening.